Hi, my name is Cesar Manuel.
Hi, my name is Carlos Alberto Orea Flores.
We are going to tell you a story. I hope you like it. The oval portrait, the tattoo into which my valet had ventured to make forcible in class, rather than permit me, in my desperately wounded condition, to pass a night in the open air, was one of those pillows combiningly gloom and grandeur which have so long frowned among the Apennines, not less in fact than in the passing of Mr. Rockwell. To all appearance, it has been very temporarily and very lately abandoned. We established ourselves in one of the smallest and least sumptuously furnished apartments. It lay in a remote turret of the building. Its decorations were rich, yet tattered and antique. Its walls were hung with tapestry and bedecked with manifold and multiple armorial trophies, together with an unusually great number of very spirit modern paintings in frames of rich golden arabesque. In this painting, which depend from the walls not only in their main surface, but in very many nooks which the bizarre architecture of the tattoo render necessary. This painting, my incipient delirium, perhaps, has caused me to take deep interest, so that I bade Pedro to close the heavy shutter of the room, saying it was already night to light the tongue of a tall candelabrum which stood by the head of my bed, and to throw open far and wide the fringed curtain of black velvet which enveloped the bed itself. I wished all this done that I might resign myself, if not to sleep, at least alternately to the completion of those pictures, and the perusal of a small volume which had been found upon the pillow, and which purport to critique and describe them.
Long, long I read, and devoutly I gazed rapidly and gloriously. The hours flew by, and the deep midnight came. The position of the candelabrum displeased me, and outreaching my hand with difficulty, rather than disturb my slumber valet, I placed it as so to throw its rays more fuel upon the book. But the action produced an effect altogether unanticipated. The rays of the numerous candles, for there were many, now fell within a niche of the room, which had hitherto been thrown into deep shade by one of the bedposts. I thus saw a vivid light in a picture and unnoticed before. It was the portrait of a young girl just ripening into womanhood. I glanced at the painting hurriedly and then closed my eyes. Why I did this was not at first apparent, even on my own perception. But while my lids remained thus shut, I ran over my mind my reason for shooting them. It was an impulse movement, and gave time for thought, to make sure that my vision had not devised me, to calm my and subdue my fancy for a more sober and more certain gaze. In a very few moments I again looked fixedly at the painting.
That I now saw, alright, I could not and would not doubt, for the first flashing of the candle upon that canvas had seemed to dissipate the dreamy stupor which was stealing over my senses, and to startle me at once into waking life. The portrait, I have already said, was that of a young girl. It was a marked head and shoulder, done in what is technically termed a vintage manner, much in the style of the favorite head of Soles. The arm, the bosom, and even the end of the radiant hair melted imperceptibly into the vague yet deep shadow which formed the background of the wall. The frame was oval, which it leaked and flickered in modesty. As a thing of art, nothing could be more admirable than the painting itself, but it could have been neither the execution of the work, nor the immortal beauty of the contents, which had so suddenly and so vehemently moved me. Least of all, could it have been that my fancy, shrinking from its half slumber, had mistaken the head for that of a living person? I saw at once that the peculiarity of the design, of the vignetting, and of the frame must have instantly dispelled such idea, must have prevented even its momentary entertainment. Thinking earnestly upon this point, I remained for an hour, perhaps half sitting, half reclining, with my vision riveted upon the portrait. At length, satisfied with the true secret of its effect, I fell back within the bed. I had found the spell of the picture in an absolute likeliness of expression, which, at first startling, finally confused, shocked, and appalled me. With depth and reverent away I replaced the candelabrum in its former position. The cause of my deep agitation began thus shut from view. I saw eagerly the volume which discussed this painting under the stories, turning to the number which designate the oval portrait. I there read the value and one word which follow.
She was a maiden of rarest beauty, and not more lovely than full of glee. And evil was the hour when she saw and loved and with the painter. He, passionate, studious, austere, and having already a pride in his art. She, a maiden of rarest beauty, and not more lovely than a full of glee. All light and smiles, and foreclusing as the young fawn, loving and cherishing all things, hating only the art which was her rival, dreading only the palette and brushes and other untoward instruments, which deprived her of the contents of her lover. It was thus a terrible thing for this lady to hear the painter speak of his desire to portray even his young bride. But she was humble and obedient, and sat meekly for many weeks in the dark, high-turret chamber where the light dripped upon the pale canvas only from overhead. But he, the painter, took glory in his work, which went on from hour to hour and from day to day, and he was a passionate and wild and moody man, who became lost in his reveries, so that would not see that the light which fell so glassily in that lone torrent withered the health and the spirits of his bride, who pined visibly to all but him. Yet she smiled and still on, uncomplainingly, because she saw that the painter, who had high renown, took the fevered and burning pleasure in his task, and through day and night that busy her who so loved him, yet who grew daily more despaired and weak. And in sooth, some who had beheld the portrait spoke of its resemblance in low words, as of mighty marvel, and approved not less of the power of the painter than of his deep love for her, whom he depicted so surprisingly well. But at length, as the labor drew near to its conclusion, there were admitted none into the turret, for the painter had grown wild in with the ardor of his work and turned his eyes from canvas merely, even to regard the countenance of his wife. And he would not see that the tints which he spread upon the canvas were drawn from the cheeks of her who stayed beside him. And when many weeks had passed, and but little remained to do, save one brush upon the mouth and one tint upon the eye, the spirit of the lady again flickered up, as the flame within the socket of the lamp, and then the brush was given, and then the tint was placed, and for one moment the painter stood entranced before the work which he had wrought. But in the next year, while he yet gazed, he grew tremulous and very pallid and aghast, and crying with a loud voice, "This is in it life itself!" turned suddenly to regard his beloved. She was dead. Well, thank you for listening us, and see you later. And goodbye.